Hey Buckaroo, welcome back to Musicom Academy, how to be a radio PD and a radio program director. Today we're going to move over to the computer virtually almost immediately, and I'm going to go through music scheduling software and actually let you see it. So let's do that right now. Everybody at some point has to deal with music scheduling software, whether you're describing it to your music director and you don't ever actually handle it at all, or you are actually doing it yourself, or like I used to do, I would set everything up the way I wanted it to be, and then I would give it to the music director to handle and explain what was going on. That's the way I like to do it. I want you to have that ability to do any one of those three ways to go. So what we're going to do is go into music scheduling software on this lesson, and it will be Music Master that I'm going to take apart for you, a little piece by piece, starting with the really basic stuff. So let's go to the computer now and we'll get into it. One of the things I found as I've been doing these lessons is that I have to try to remember that the original intent of this course was for people who have never been a PD. You know, and at times I veer off into doing things because I think they're really important things that you should know for somebody who is a PD right now, maybe even has been a PD for 8, 9, 10 years. So I'm trying to straddle that line of going back and forth between, okay, you don't know anything really about programming, to you do know something, and I'm going to give you a trick or two or whatever that will help you along if you already know. This lesson is going to be very, very much about a basic lesson. And what I'm going to do is go through Music Master as if you know nothing about it. So you might want to look down below because I'm going to do the times of where different sections of this is. It quite possibly could be that this entire lesson, if you're already a PD and you know Music Master or Selector or somewhat Power Gold, something else, that you may just skip this entire lesson and wait till next week's lesson. Again, I do a lesson one a week, and it would be Sunday night at midnight, Monday morning. I put a new one up. Let me just say right now that I sort of envision this thing going out to 40, 50, 60 lessons. I think right now there's 19 or 20 of them that are live, 4 or 5 in the can, and and a lot more to go. So anyway, this is Music Master for someone, and this is what this lesson is basically about, a lot of this anyway, is you really don't know anything and you're hitting this cold, and what's it about and what do you do and what does it look like? So what I'm showing you on the screen right now is it's a typical A category, and that's what would generally be there. And you can set this up any way you want to look. I set it up this way because there are things that I think a jock would need to know. And then I'm going to go backtrack and show you how to set this up to actually get here, as if you were starting with a fresh, clean slate and there was nothing in here. And the typical stuff would be artist, the keywords, which I'll explain to you, but the keywords are basically how the computer keeps track of artist separation. And then obviously the title and the gender, male. These are usually, let me just see if actually it'll show you okay, cool. So this is what, I'll show you how to set these up, but this is what would typically be set up. You're going to get a duet, duo, 2 people singing, male, female, 2 guys, whatever. Female, a group, an instrumental, or a male. That's the type of general song it is. Now, why would you have this? It used to be for a while, way too long actually. It made sense for the first couple years, but there was no 2 female songs back to back. That was really common. I mean, that went on for probably another 15, 20 years, where the original intent of it, the person, Bill Drake, who set it up in San Francisco, he wanted to make his station sound very, very different from the station he was competing against, which played a huge amount of women's songs. At the time, it was making a transition from MOR, with Patti Page and Rosemary Clooney and stuff like that, into his sort of top 40 radio station. So no other reason, just to sound different. He set it up, well, hey, you know what, let me slow the females down. I want to be more leaning into males because my competitor is very, very female-ish. Is that a word? Female-ish? So that's why that was set up that way. It was the only reason. So realistically, 3 years after that fact, where almost every radio station on the planet was, no 2 females back to back, it made no sense. It didn't fit their market in any way. Where it does come into play, depending on the type of station you have, where you might not want, like if you're doing smooth jazz with a lot of AC vocals, you would want to say, I don't want to have two instrumentals back to back. And out of 3 songs, I don't want to have 2 instrumentals out of every 3 or 3 out of every 4. So you can separate things by using these. But for the most part, all you're really going to be concerned with is this a male, a female, or a group? That's pretty much all that's going to come up. Anyway, so that's what that is. I set up a 5 tempo here, and I'll show you how to set these up. Slow, medium. To me, that's like got some tempo. Your foot is automatically tapping, and if you had all 3 codes, your station's going to have a really nice feel to it. 4, you're kicking it up a notch. 5 is, Get Out of Denver by Bob Seger. You're cranking. A lot of stations now, they're just doing like maybe a 1 and a 5, and the song is either slow or it's fast. It's either got a beat or it doesn't have a beat. So that's that. In what else we have? Sound codes. These are sound codes. Again, I'll show you how to set these up. These are the ones that are set up here on this particular one. These will be fairly typical of what you would set up. The Weeknd, this particular song, you could probably make a case for, this is kind of pop. But I think R&B is more prudent to just lean it that way. So, typical type of genre you'd put in here: alternative, R&B, country, dance, folk rock, or some way of, maybe an easy guitar type thing, some way of describing it to yourself, because this isn't to the machine, this is to yourself. The machine doesn't even know what you're doing. It's just looking, if I see an F, and he's going to give me instructions if I see an F. Only you know what putting an F on a song means, because that F could just as easily not say folk rock. It could say rock. It could say R&B. It could say anything. You're the one that's setting this up. I like to, as I'm going through here, I like to actually use the letter that's closest to the description of what I want to do. It's easier to remember. R is rock, P is pop, L is love songs, H is hip hop, F is folk, that type of thing. So this is basically what this type of stuff is. Moving on, we got the ending of the song. Well, this is either going to be either fade out or it's going to end cold. Then there's Dayparting. Now, none of these songs are dayparted, but what you would do, like I already showed you Dayparting on one of the earlier lessons, specifically how to do it. On Music Master, when you hit any one of these fields, if you hit this little square here, you get an idea of how to set it up. If I wanted to say, I don't want it to play, in Morning Drive, you'd put an X in Morning Drive, or however you want to do it, and it wouldn't play there. So that's pretty much what this is, and you'd set up each song one by one. For some songs, you wouldn't put anything because they're wide open, so there's no reason to daypart them because they have no restriction. And then there's other things that come around. Let me just drag this over a little bit and let this thing go. See, like, you can put the year. I mean, there's a ton of different fields that help the computer work. For adding new songs, which is what we're going to do today, this is one of the, you kind of want to fill in what you're going to be using the most. You're not likely going to be putting the composer in unless you have some sort of a governmental thing where you got to put it in. The mood, you're probably not going to be using the mood. You might be using core or non-core. And if that was the case, then what I would do is I would actually grab this and you can move it over. Like, watch. I just selected that and I'm moving it. So if I move it over here, now it's closer. So I can get to it faster when I'm just filling in the things. But to just keep going, I'll just keep going across, categories of plays, the album it's from, most likely you're not going to care about that. Library plays, probably not going to care unless you're looking something up, file name, URL. For sure, you're not going to be worrying about any of that stuff. There's so much more you can put in, but where do you set these things up? How do you get this thing rolling where you can actually sit down and start adding a song? Like if I wanted to, like I could just, start right off here and put in, like a Lady Gaga and, just start typing it in. Now what's going to end up happening over here probably, see there is no keyword, artist keyword for Lady Gaga, so you would put one in. And, again, you're doing the same thing. And hit OK. And now the next time you come through, that would be there. If I was going to add another Lady Gaga song, that would come up as a choice to just click. And then you put the title, you'd put the gender, obviously it would be female. Again, it would be, back to this thing. And so you'd click female, hit OK. And I don't know, let's just say this tempo is it starts off with a 1 and ends really fast. So let's just say it's some crazy thing like that. All right, and that's what it is. So it's telling the computer for a sweep, if it's playing a slow song going into another slow song that you don't want two really slow songs back to back, you could tell it that. So it's going to be looking and going, I'm playing a 1. He doesn't want me to play another 1 next to this, following it, and it'll avoid this song. And then the intro time, 10 seconds. Oh, you'd put 10 in there. 10 seconds, and there you go. And it's got a 10-second intro. Sound code, more than likely would probably be pop, as a guess. And let's just say, just because we don't have any here, we'll say this one fades out. Got it. Okay. And no Dayparting. Okay, so that's essentially what we're doing. Now let me go to show you where to set this up. And it's going to be very similar depending on the software. Somewhere it'll be in here and it'll look roughly like this. This again is Music Master. If it was something else, then like Selector, it would be in a slightly different position, but it's going to do basically the same. So I'm going to go to the data set, which is up here, data set. I'm going to go to the library maintenance, queue the library, add new songs. So if I hit add new songs, I'm going to get 1 page of this. Well, here, let's do it. Okay, let's add 1 song. Everything we were just looking at, but it's blank, and then you just start adding stuff. I'm going to go back, and this would be for quick moves. You might want to start moving songs around in a category, but we'll skip that for a second. So this is the setup of fields. And these are all the fields that you have to work with. I mean, there's a lot of them here. You see a lot of these are things that you would never really realistically use. Maybe somewhere down the road when you get really adept at this stuff, you might go, hey, what's this doing? Oh, I can do this sort of really weird way of adjusting the music. But for the most part, and I'm not going to go into that really for the course at all, but for the most part, you're going to be using the things that I show you, which are on the simpler end, which are more than enough to do an amazing radio station. One of the things with these, you really don't want to put a ton of different rules and restrictions on the system itself, because it'll continually keep throwing out errors. Can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. This thing you're asking me is in total contradiction with the first thing you asked me. That type of stuff. So you don't really want to get into that. You sort of want to stay down on the basics, make sure they're running well, what you want, and then there's a few other things that you can kick up into. So anyway, but these are, there's a lot of choices here. And some of these things that are on here, there are things for reports that you have no control over, like weeks on. Like if you add a song, if you added it this week and 5 weeks from now, you want to go, hey, how long have I been playing this? It'll tell you. Well, you've been playing it 5 weeks. But that's not something that you're really doing. It's just keeping track of it. Same thing with peak weeks, peak position, peak month. The year you're going to put in, it'll just sit there. You're probably not going to do that much with it. So anyway, just to give you an idea, that's what here. Again, I'm doing this course really basically for people who have never seen this, and I don't want you to be hitting it and be overwhelmed if you have to hit it blind going, what the hell is all this crap? At least you've seen me go through it and know that, yeah, this stuff doesn't really matter all that much. Okay, so let's go back to the data set and go back to the library and go to categories. And this is where you would set up your category. So if you wanted to add a category, let's see what's open here. What letter isn't open? H, I, J, K, L. How about M? So let's add a category. We'll add category M. All right. And category name, what should we name it? Mushy. How about mushy songs? Oh, yeah. There we go. Mushy songs. Mushy songs for the Love Song Show. I don't know. So, all right, now we got a category. Where is it? Where'd it go? It's at the bottom. Then we got a category for mushy songs. All right, good to go. So let me open that back up again. it's a music category. Sometimes it may not be a music category. It may be non-music category, which would be something like imaging, promos, that type of stuff, if you wanted to use that for it. And what was the last thing? Oh, that was the last thing. Okay, so that's how you would do, add a category. I'm not going to add this because I really don't want mushy songs in the category. All right, back to data set in the library, keywords. Now these keywords are going to be keywords for the titles. You can tell that, Hard Day's Night, New World Record, Night at the Opera. This actually, what I'm using here is a classic rock database to go through this with. But it's picking up the titles, because you may not want, like we had done again in an earlier lesson, usually where it comes up is Christmas songs. You have 15 versions of A White Christmas by a whole bunch of different artists. You can keep separation on the title, so that's what it's doing. It's got keyword for, in this instance, it's doing it on titles. Similar type thing though would be, let's go back to data set, library, and go back to attributes, and here's where we get into the really interesting stuff. Now we're starting out on this one, it opens almost every time to core and non-core. If you want to use it, is this song, every time you add one or go back through later, say you're walking into a radio station, nobody has ever used this particular attribute, which is basically just a file that's attached to a song. That's essentially what it is. Each song is going to have a whole bunch of things that somebody cares about the song, some sort of a descriptor, and one of them that you can use is core or non-core. And this can come in handy. Let me see if I can give you an example of this. I was recently on the board of directors of a jazz radio station, Jazz FM in Toronto, really wonderful jazz radio station, but it was having trouble they went through an upheaval. Let's just leave it at that. But the station did not have a PD, and I was on the board of directors, so I was the only person who really knew programming, so I kind of had to go in and fix some things because a lot of stuff was kind of messed up. The rotations, it was in weird shape. Now, they had a really old version of Selector there, and so I had to learn Selector and fix things on the fly at the same time. But again, just like what I'm trying to explain to you, if you know what you're looking for, you can usually find it. I essentially did this, except on Selector, because it was a really old version of Selector. Matter of fact, it was so old that when we would call New York and call the head office for Selector, they had to find somebody that knew the version, from memory of what I was asking them questions about, because I didn't know Selector, but I knew what I was looking for and I knew what I wanted to achieve. And that's key, even more so than actually knowing the software. What are you actually trying to accomplish? And then basically you can just say, hey, this is what I want to do. Where is it? Show me where it is on the software. So what I had to use to accomplish this, what I'm about to show you right now, I had to use sound codes. So I made a sound code essentially for a core artist, where in Music Master here, because this is the newest, latest version, version 7, it's already built in. So what I did was, to me, when I listened to the jazz radio station, and we did the exact same thing with a rock radio station, I'll explain that in its entirety in a later lesson, because that can stand to be a lesson unto itself. So anyway, with this jazz station, my sense was, as I was listening to it, and I don't really know. I'm not a jazz buff. So I don't know these songs. I'm just a regular person who would tune into the station every once in a while to get away from everything else. I mean, that was essentially it. But I listened to it and I found, man, this radio station is really hard to listen to, because they would go through some stretches where wow, these are nice songs. I like these songs, or I was familiar with them, or whatever. And then you'd go through really long stretches where they were really heavy-duty improv songs. No melody that you can pick out. So to a non-fanatic jazz buff, they're brutal. They're like torture. They really were. So what I did, I sat down with the music director who was really into jazz and knew jazz, and I said, okay, I don't want to change the radio station. I don't want to add in pop or some other weird stuff. I want to stay in the jazz mode, and so no one can ever say, well, this is not a jazz radio station anymore. So I just took that right off the table. We were only dealing with jazz, but I went in to find the songs that would be more mass appeal okay, more mass appeal than the other songs. So I'll give you as an example. If I say to you Frank Sinatra all the way, I don't think there's a person alive that doesn't know what that song is, who's going to be listening to a jazz station. Or pretty much any one of the Louis Armstrong songs, or Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan, and a ton of other acts where you listen to it and you go like, oh, I know that song. My parents used to play that. Or I've heard that a ton of times. I've even heard it on like an American Idol or Britain's Got Talent when they go back and they play the classics. Essentially, they're the American standards that are worldwide known, that type of stuff. So to me, what I did is I used the sound code, which would be exactly this. And so because you can do this any way you want, you're just using software to get to your answer, what you want to do. I said for the Sinatra, for the Louis Armstrong, for the Sarah Vaughans, for those songs where I knew, including instrumentals, there were a decent amount of instrumentals by Miles Davis and John Coltrane, super classics that I knew what they were. And again, I'm not a jazz buff, so I have to assume like, okay, these are like gold. These are like golden songs that everybody's going to know. So I made that with the sound code core. I wanted those to be the core songs, even though on a jazz station, they probably would not actually literally be core. But for the sound that I wanted to set up for the radio station, I made them core and then told the machine, I don't want to be any more than 2 songs away from one of these songs. A jazz person hears nothing but jazz songs. To them, it's full-on jazz. For a non-jazz person, a casual listener who just wants to come in, they're hearing still a jazz radio station, but it is way more friendly to their ear. They would hear more than they would under the normal circumstances of the way the station was. You can do this in any kind of format at all. You just have to think it through. It's like, well, what would I want to accomplish by using this? So this can be a pretty cool attribute. If you see attribute, that's what they're calling him here. But let me just show you the other ones that are here. You can set up the gender. Now, if I wanted to add something, a different kind of gender, here, let's do one here just for the heck of it. Let's just say I don't know, but you could go, hey, I'm gonna have thing for trans. It's up to you to put it in. You can do anything you want and use any letter that you want. Back up to data set, back up to library, back up to attributes, and okay, so that's gender. And then the mood. This was in here. I didn't put this in here, but you get the point. It works the same way. I have no idea what they're getting at for mood. I guess probably since this is a sample classic rock radio station, I would assume this is like, really slow. Okay, this is okay. This one, the mood of this one feels okay, and this is probably something like Sympathy for the Devil or something that's just really cranking along, or Start Me Up or whatever. I'm assuming that would be what that is. I've never really used mood. No matter what kind of station I've built, I've never used it. I've never used it on a jazz station. I did a smooth jazz station, never used it there. AC, upper end AC, which would be a really soft one. Soft rock, top forward, never used it. I just didn't see the need for it. And again, also, you don't want to bog the software down and, beating into the ground where the thing's going, I give up, I can't do this. Dude, leave me alone. All right, so sound codes. This is where you would set up the sound codes. You know what? Let's change this right now. Let me just put that singer-songwriter here. And this is where if you wanted to add something, you could add it like we added touchy, before in the other category because it wasn't there. But you can also set them up and add it here. Let's move on. Back to data set, back to library, back to attributes. Let's go to tempo now. And these are the tempos. If you wanted, you could just keep adding letters. If you wanted to go to, I don't know why you would, because that probably would be overkill, but you could take this out to 9. So that's the attributes, and this is where you would go if you wanted to set any one of these 5 things up: core, non-core, gender, mood, sound, and tempo. Now let's get out of this. Back to data sets and library, and again, we went through this in an earlier lesson, but I'm going to go to packets. So just tap on packets one more time. If you wanted to make a packet, this is where you would do it. I don't remember right now as I'm doing this off the top of my head, but the lesson that we went into how to make packets, way more thorough than I'm going to do now, because I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to put that on the screen so you're seeing it right now on the screen, whatever that lesson was. And back to data sets again, back to library. What's the last one? Trivia. Oh, trivia. Well, okay, if you had a song and you wanted to put something in there about it. I have never used trivia for any of the radio stations that I did, but when I was overseeing the jazz station, there was a ton of trivia stuff there. A lot about, who was playing bass, who was the drummer, what was the album it was from, because that's information that is given out a lot if you're doing a full-blown jazz station. Lastly, what's on here also in the library is the last things at the end: song list editor, chart editor, export, enterprise, synchronize. I'm not going to go into them here. I may not even go into those at all, really. They're more like maintenance type stuff that probably your music director is going to be doing more than you're going to be doing, unless you're on your own, and then you would probably need to learn this. That wouldn't be for this course. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. This whole entire lesson really has been for people who are hitting this cold. They've never had to deal with it, and what is this? Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a little lost, or I'm scared, or whatever. Just kind of want to tool you up a little bit that, okay, this is what it is. It's not that scary. It's not a big deal. And, again, if you've listened to this lesson, once or twice through, you get a handle for, which might be the most important part of this, the stuff that you don't need. You're not going to need a whole bunch of this stuff. You can add a new song from here, but you can also just add it, just by going to the category like I showed you. You're going to need the fields. You're definitely going to need the categories, but you're only going to need to set the categories up one time, really. You're not going to have to mess with it after that. Keywords sort of will take care of itself. You will have to set the attributes up, but usually one time, and then you'll just keep getting them as you add new songs. You'll be using what you've already set up. Packeting will come up every once in a while when you want to packet songs. As a matter of fact, that will actually come up, fairly regularly. Trivia, you may not use it at all, and then this other stuff, probably not going to use it. So, you're looking at a bunch of things here, but in reality, there's only, I don't know, after you set them up, there's like, what, 2? Again, it's not scary stuff, but it just looks that way when you first encounter it. So there you go. This is Music Master Selector, or any other music scheduling program is going to operate pretty much the same way. And if you have one of those other ones and you're a little bit lost and you can't figure it out, just call their home office and go, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm looking for. The holiday guy on the internet thing was telling me to look for, keywords or sound codes or whatever. I can't find them. Where are they? And the guy will take you through it, or the woman on the phone, she'll go, all right, well, see that pull down? There it is. Oh, okay, good, thanks. Hang up the phone and go about your business. As I mentioned right at the start of this, I'm trying to do this, go back and forth between people who are a PD and then, like this lesson, for somebody who knows nothing about it at all. So the next lesson, I'm going to jump back into you are a PD, and I'm going to hopefully show you stuff that you don't know. And then we'll come back down the road to more basic stuff like this, and I'll pick out a different section of Music Master and we'll go through them. Like I mentioned also earlier, when I hit the basic stuff, if it's not going to pertain to you, I'm going to try to flag it for you really quickly so that you can either jump ahead to what you might want to know, or just skip the lesson entirely and wait till the next lesson. There you go, music scheduling software. I hope a lot of that made sense, and hope you could see the screen, pretty clearly, depending on the resolution or whether you're on a phone or not, or something. It might have been really super small. I don't know. Anyway, hope that helped, and hope you get a little feel now of dealing with music scheduling software. It's really great when you know how to do it. Even if you don't use it that much, you at least know the language and what to talk about to your music director, who maybe is dealing with it more. It's just one of those skills that I really believe that you should know. Until the next time, see ya.